All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Thursday. One more day of the week to go. Today is Thursday, May 16th, and just looking at Nvidia that reported after the close, they reported good numbers. So I think this is good for the market. I did not trade Nvidia. This is what I said to members. We did go over it in the room. I thought it could really break either way. I really did. The range was 148 to 173, so very close to the implied move of what the options were pricing in, which was about a 7.7% move. So really nice. I did talk about a call spread, but I honestly thought that this could go either way, so I did not trade it. I did not really want the exposure. I mean, this thing, and again, it's really difficult for earnings, and I think this quarter was much harder than it was for last quarter. So I stopped trading earnings or backing off from earnings. I played a small trade in Boot Barn today, which is kind of off the radar a little bit. But sometimes I like the off the radar names. But charts just sometimes. I mean, there was two things that I saw in this chart. Either we were going to hold this downward trend line, this trend line that I have and possibly bounce, or it was going to fall and take out this version point of control. So it looks like it chose the higher it chose A, which is good. So even though I'm not long Nvidia, I think this is good for the market. It's good for semis, and also Applied Materials also reported. So I think this was good. I don't know what somebody was doing earlier. Sometimes people do things for funding purposes, or just premium purposes. But somebody was it looked to be a buyer of the SOX S. So again, this SOX S is triple leverage, right? So they were buying calls in a bearish ETF, which is basically that equates to 3 times short SMH, right? SOX S is 3 times inverse. So I don't know what they were doing. It could be that they were doing something on the other side of that trade. But you would think very interesting that somebody would do this trade, take a bearish view the day before Applied Materials and Nvidia reported. So A, either they were wrong, B, they were doing some type of arb between the implied volatility of this, which is huge. I mean, look at the implied volatility. Look at how expensive these are. 261% implied volatility, and maybe they were hedging on the other side with SMH. You just don't know, and collecting some premium. Who knows? And it's very difficult sometimes because you never know what the buyer or the actual trader is intending to do. But I was going to bring up Applied Materials. Then we also have some China names that are out. Wow, look at Applied Materials go. So again, really good for the semiconductors. I am long AMD. We got long in this name yesterday. If I bring up our trade setup that we did. Oh, and I also got long MRVL. I forgot about that. This was in. Sometimes I forget things, but this was so I did have exposure. I completely forgot that I got long that name earlier this morning. Where's my AMD order? Starter. Yeah, so I did not go long into this one. I think I have the chart somewhere. I must have sent it out in the room. I did the October 29 calls and not a big position in it. That was yesterday. So let's talk about, so that'll be good for me. I'll just talk about, I did 2 new trades today, but I took off a lot of exposure. I said that in the morning. Again, if you're not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, this is kind of what you see. Some people, they come at me a little bit on Twitter because they're like, hey, how come you're not vocal sometimes? Well, it's because I'm providing members as much information as possible during the day. And if you don't see me active on Twitter, it's because I'm tweeting on private Twitter and I manage an all-day trading room. So when things are really moving fast, posting things on regular Twitter is the last thing that I'm up to. When it's slow, you'll see me post more on regular Twitter. It's just, I want to make sure members have all the information first. They're paying for it. Makes sense, right? So MRVL, I like this. So 2192 is my stop in this one. Remember, everybody was going crazy about MRVL and the call buying and momentum call buying. So it is slipped all the way back and into support, 50-day moving average in the bottom of value. So that is a new long for me. But let's talk about the big movers of the day. Software, right? If you've been following me for a while, you know that I've been bullish these names for a long time, and they showed the relative strength the last couple days. So, that's pretty much what is, if you're doing your homework, right? I mean, I saw somebody earlier, again, I'm not trying to call anybody out or anything like that, but I saw somebody earlier was talking about how great the Facebook calls were yesterday because there was a big block of Facebook. Guys, if you're, that's great. It went up 40 basis points today. Congratulations. Now, granted, it went up someplace in here yesterday, but, I mean, there's no call buying in Coop. Look at what Coupa Software did. So again, I stand by, if you do your homework and you watch the price action, again, I have nothing against option activity. I look at it every day. I get some good signals, but up 5.5%. And look at what this Coupa has been doing, right? We've been in this now for, I think, 2 weeks. And I added to it in here when the market was going down, but Coupa wasn't doing that. So real nice breakout. To me, this is much more impressive than, an aggressive call buyer that goes up on the tape. But that's just me. Same thing with Microsoft, right? Big gainer in Microsoft. Not too many calls on the tape, but that's okay. Look at the support. PayPal, also a nice one in PayPal. Almost closed on the highs today. I took off 90% of my position today, and so really that's the game for me. Is after being in several of these names and hitting on a bunch of them. Right here's my trades for the day. Splunk we got into today as well. This was a member called this one out. I didn't ask for his permission, but I'm out of this one. This was just a nice day trade because obviously I just had several names of exposure. MDB, which we got long yesterday. I know that there were some calls that went up. We got in before the calls again. So MDB actually closed right around the highs today. Above value. I took my profits in this one. I thought it could go all the way through value. It did that. Now I might, tinker with this tomorrow and maybe add back a position, but I'm out of MDB after a 6% move in this thing today. Salesforce also took some profits in that one today. Here's my Microsoft. That's not SPLJ, that's Splunk. It's a error. So, and then, basically what I'm doing here is, holding the last piece of PayPal, MasterCard as well, which I didn't show that one, but Microsoft. So again, we've really been doing, a lot of homework. I put out last night the member newsletter for free. Sometimes I do that after it's been a couple days. But you could see the kind of work that we do on the weekend, and this is what really drives me, is coming up with these and coming up with trade setups like this that work really well, and then going on to the next week and trying to find more trades for members. So that's what we're here to do, and I'm very excited. Obviously when things work really well, just like in yesterday's video, I was pumped up too. You got to get pumped up when you put in the work, you do the analysis, and it works out the way that you want it to. You should be excited, right? And if you're making people money as well. So really, really excited. I'll give my last setup away for free for the day. But also CDNS. So again, I was very overweight, the software group coming in today. You could see most of the trading that I did, by the way, all in the first hour. There wasn't really much for me to do for the rest of the day. This is all the way first hour of the day. Basically done for the day with this. So the plan is, and some of the trades that I have, the exposure that I still left on, to ride the trend, right? We want to make sure that we're capitalizing on the bigger trend, not just a one-day move. But if you didn't get into some of these names, or if you're just in a portion of them, I wouldn't worry about it too much, because what happens is, we could look at Okta. Of course, it can't be in every one, but obviously the whole thing going on in the group. These will give you a chance to come back. They do get hit from time to time. Profit takers do come in to these names. So that's my opinion, is that you will get another chance to get in these names. If, and I said this I was on TD Ameritrade's show yesterday and went over all these setups, or talked about most of these setups. But from time to time, you'll see a rotation out of this group, especially if they happen to make some more progress on the trade deal. What'll happen is there'll be a rotation out of this name into more trade sensitive names like industrials and more of the semiconductors. So that's usually what happens with this group. And so don't feel bad if you miss this move in some of these names. Don't worry, you'll get another chance. And every time this group is pulled back hard, uh, it's been a buying opportunity. So I continue to kind of look for opportunities there. Workday is one I think will continue to run into earnings. I said that last night on Twitter. You could see my post there. So that's basically, I just didn't think that there was. I want to make sure that on days like this, I'm taking off when everything is going up, right? And especially in a space where I'm really long. My job is to take off some risk, especially in options positions that are very volatile, and be a net seller for the day. And then just kind of regroup a little bit, right? Because we've had, 3 days now of a rally. And then just look for some, be patient and not give back the gains. And I'm up now for the month. I did have a couple of difficult days. I had a difficult day on Monday, but I'm now, in the clear and up nicely for the month, and hope to stay that way for the rest of May. So that's where we're at. So I will show you a couple names for option activity. Option activity is really difficult on a day like this because everything is going up. So every trade looks great. SE's another name that's been blasting off to the upside. Remember, you can't be in every single one of these. So sure, I would have liked to get into this one too, but really nice false breakdown. Remember, in here I was long and I did get out of it here, which was a mistake. But hey, no one, you're never going to be perfect with every decision. A couple of trades that I thought were interesting, and I'm missing one in here. But there was some RNG that was very small, a call buyer on this one. And a lot of rolling, obviously, in positions. Oh, it looks like they traded more of these. But I just want to put this one on the list. That's RNG calls, June 130 calls. Again, another name that looks like identical to probably the 3 or 4 other trades that I just showed you in this space. There was actually a little bit of Uber calls. Someone in the trading room, I didn't get permission to use their name, but they mentioned, which I thought was a really good observation, that, I would think that there's going to be a lot of sellers up at the 45 strike. Really nice observation, and was talking about maybe selling calls, considering that there will be a decent amount of overhead supply in that one. ICE, there were some calls at the end of the day. There was a little bit of Disney. Wayfair, which I thought was an interesting order. Again, you just have to be really picky and choosy when you see calls go up in so many different names, because it is what it is. When the market's green and rallying, there's a lot of momentum call buyers, and we know, right, that a good portion of them are going to be wrong. So you just have to be picky and choosy with what you're doing. Wayfair, it's in value, so that's why I did not take that trade. Let me talk about the indices a little bit. I see they're going over Amazon on fast money as I'm taping this. I think Amazon looks really interesting here. Of course, it had that beautiful bounce on the 50-day moving average, but if you're looking at Amazon at this point, it's got to break over 1906. That is the top of value. And again, no problem. I would have no problem getting involved in Amazon. I don't think you're really chasing it, even though it's had a couple days. I think it's got to get over 1907, and then you could use that as your stop once resistance will become support if that takes place. But I do like that name. I am long in cash in Amazon. And that's in my IRA, not in my trading account. All right, I wanted to talk about S&P futures. We always like to see what the overall market is doing. I have a couple other charts to show you guys. But notice so here's the hindsight 2020, right? Which is, and again, we talked about this in the room. We talked about this yesterday, but really the level was 28.54. If you drill down to the 1 hour chart, 1 hour chart always gives me some great signals. But we failed to get into value here. Had a tough time with it yesterday. Trying to get in, and then boom, off the open, we got into value. Your resistance for tomorrow, and it's a nice little, cute little setup here because it looks like a little bit of a flag, but right at the point of control, which is the highest volume of last week. Right, this is the value. This value area is based on the volume. So cute little move back here into point of control. Maybe we could get up to 2,900 tomorrow. That would be your resistance. That's what I would be looking at for tomorrow. And of course, your support is down there at 28.53. How do we look on the daily, which I also think is very interesting at this point as well. We're right at that bottom of value. So again, we've made some nice progress, right? We've reclaimed the 50-day moving average. We've reclaimed the 5-day moving average. For purple is the 50. The yellow is the 5. Notice where I have a trend line drawn in here. So I would like to see us close above 28.7825 tomorrow. Notice the bar just closed inside value, which is great. But we'll see if that continues for tomorrow. So I just want to look at IWM. I usually look at that one as well. A fine day, up 60 basis points. Still doesn't seem to have the major momentum. Remember, financials are the biggest weight in the IWM. So, financials I think continue to lag a little bit. So a couple other charts, I'm also watching high yield bonds. I do look at in the fixed income space credit spreads just to see how everything is looking health-wise. Now, I don't use TLT over HYG. I know a lot of people like that, but the duration is very different, right? I'm not an expert in fixed income. I know the basics, and someone in fixed income told me not to use TLT over HYG because the duration is way off. You want to match the durations when you're analyzing different fixed income classes or different bonds. So IEI, which is the 7 to 10 year, I believe, or no, maybe that might be the 3 to 5. But anyway, it's got roughly the same duration as HYG. So one is treasuries, one's high yield bonds, and we're coming off. I mean, notice this is nothing compared. It's a little bit higher than where we got in March, and March was a buying opportunity, and it's kind of sinking back down again. The other one, so I think that's no major panic in the fixed income market, which is good. Something else that I've been watching is what's been going on between low volatility equities and high beta. I noticed one of the things that we talked about previously this week is that high beta started to outperform a little bit this week, and that's carried through as well. So that's a good sign. That also happened in the beginning of April as well, right? Low volatility rallied hard against high beta, and then high beta, because remember high beta is in the denominator, so high beta started to outperform, and it looks like that's happening a little bit too the last couple of days. So overall, just going over this to kind of give you, a higher level look at the market. I don't see any major stress in the fixed income market. I don't see much really that alarming between low volatility and high beta. It did get extreme here, obviously, but it's been coming in nicely. The other thing that I like to look at too, which is a little bit concerning, probably this would be on one of the top areas of my list of concerning, is emerging markets, because emerging markets, sometimes you can make the argument that sometimes emerging markets lead, just like small caps. No major bounce here. They actually finished down on the day, down 50 basis points. So, so not everything is a completely rosy picture. Emerging markets are not. They're not part. They have not participated other than a small. They did bounce yesterday, but they're not leading. Good to see that also Europe bounced pretty nicely. IFA is Japan and Europe. So, that did not get into value yet, but has been coming back. So what do you do if you don't have a picture that so how much doing this analysis, what's my level of bullishness? Probably, I would say out of 10, probably after a couple days rally, it's somewhere between like 6 to 8, so maybe a 7. Because I do think some things are still a little bit out of whack. So if the picture's not perfect for you, then what do? you take more profits off and you have a little bit more of a cash balance, so that if the picture's not looking great for you and you think you have a higher probability of a down day or two, you have that cash available to you. And again, if you look, I like to practice as much as I can, practice what I preach, and you could see I was a net seller today. Last chart that I'll show you guys, which I like, going over the 13 Fs, they're great to talk about at cocktail parties and, that sort of thing. The only guys that I really pay attention to, and again, everything is in the past, right? They're talking about the first quarter. Well, the first quarter is long and gone. It looks like most of those guys, like the guys that I follow, Drunken Miller, Steve Cohen, David Tepper, Warren Buffett, those guys were big buyers in the first quarter. Are they going to be big buyers again this quarter? Don't know. It's something to think about. These are the guys who do drive the market, the institutional money. So there probably will be a little bit more picky after seeing I think I saw a lot of opportunities in the first quarter. Are they going to continue to buy at the pace? Again, these are things that you want to kind of think about and straighten out in your mind. I do think this name is interesting. At some point, Mr. Cohen added a small position, I think about 25 to 30,000 shares. So again, sometimes it's just idea generation, right? I'm not making decisions because they got into a position, but I'm like, hey, that's interesting. They got into Zebra. You look at the chart. How is this set up for me? After a name that's been in a big uptrend, pulling back to the 200-day moving average. A simple setup, and I like simple trades. I know exactly where, if it doesn't work, if it breaks the 200, I'm out of it. So I did start a position in this today. All right, guys, so I will leave it there. All in all, great day, great day for the Tribeca Trade Group. And look forward to seeing you in the room. If you're not a member, go ahead and check out TribecaTradeGroup.com and you can get involved. You can, of course, email me if you have any questions. cfromhertz@TribecaTradeGroup.com. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.